There we go.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was just saying we'll have to balance both. This is a very important meeting here as well, and I got an opportunity to hear the start your opening statement, and it was absolutely fantastic. I suppose it's to welcome Niall Mulligan, Rory Fitzgerald and Sarah Stack, who are here from Samaritans. It's an honour to meet you and to know what you've done over the past 18 months. It's been incredible, and all of your volunteers. It's incredible to think you provide this service with only 12 core staff. Some of the areas I suppose I just wanted to highlight, and perhaps just a couple of questions if that was okay. But just you mentioned that you're extremely busy from 6 until 10 p.m. You know that you run a 24-hour service, but they were your busiest hours, and that you take on from other helplines. So in other words, you offer your number to other groups. In other words, that they can contact you after the 6 p.m. sort of time when other groups may finish. I suppose I'd be interested in just learning a little bit more about that. You've mentioned 2,000 volunteers, but then there was an impact during COVID and maybe the reduction in numbers that you were able to access. Is there anything there that can help support you in terms of a recruitment campaign or for people to become involved as volunteers? I suppose one of my key questions would be, how do we support you going forward? I really liked what you had mentioned about providing a service for people abroad. I thought that was a really wonderful thing to do, particularly when so many Irish people and diaspora abroad and people who would have family in Ireland were not able to return home and may have been going through very difficult times, have been isolated abroad as well and feeling very far away from home. I think at least for a lot of us here, even though we were isolated on our own, we knew that we were very close to loved ones, which meant a lot. Just in rural areas, I suppose I'm representing sort of Roscommon and Galway, very much a rural regional area. You spoke about being able to deliver online and how important that was. I suppose being able to deliver online sort of engagement. And I was just going to ask you a little bit about that. I suppose I always presumed it was through the phone. Like, would you offer sort of a face-to-face online, or was it more for webinar and training sessions for your volunteers and staff? I suppose really that's just my few queries, and just to say thank you so much, and really how, I suppose through the HSC and everything else, how can we look to support you, or even in recruitment and campaigns for volunteers? Very interested in that. So, Gary Milwaukee.
Thanks, Aisling. Niall?
Sarah, do you
Yeah, the DDI, so the support with the other organisations, that's actually been ongoing since about 2012, and it depends. They have different opening hours, and let's say one of them might close at 8 p.m. at night. If you ring that helpline, you'll get a message to say our phone line's now closed, but if you stay on the line, you can go through to Samaritans. So the caller has the option to hang up at that stage. So they come through to into the 116 line. And yeah, no, it is sort of, it's a safeguard for people. It's a successful service we offer. Last year we took over nearly 1,400 calls from six different organisations, and that was listening for over 300 hours. So it is needed out there. I mean, a lot of people will want that specific helpline and will hang up and call the next day. So, but if they are in distress at that time, it could be the middle of the night. Some of the helplines open overnight and we could be there during the day, and that's when we step in, and the volunteers sort of take those calls like they take any call from any organisation or from any caller around the country themselves. It's renewed quite often with a lot of the organisations. They see the benefit of it, we see the benefit of it, and we're just there to support people when they need us. The partnership with the Department of Foreign Affairs, it was an MOU set up. It took a while to set up more technically. We have these phone lines coming in from 6 different countries now. So it took a while for them to set up and to come in. They are advertised in the original country through the embassy staff. The Department of Foreign Affairs came to us because some people were arriving at crisis at the embassies or contacting the local consular staff. And while they were more than able to help them and support them with legal issues or with travel issues or anything like that, when people showed up in crisis, the staff just really wanted this extra backup. So our phone number is promoted in certain countries through embassies, through the local GAA, through Irish business groups, and some magazines. We've had pieces in local magazines for Irish people overseas. And from those calls, I know last year we took 61 dialogue calls, and were on the phone for over 9 hours. And again, this year, 25 dialogue calls in the first 6 months of the year and supporting for over 7 hours. So we're not there for anyone who just fancies a chat with someone back home. It really is people who are in crisis overseas. It was extended this year to other countries where people were actually being restricted through travel, and it's impacting on them. And again, they get the very same service as if you were to pick up the phone in Galway and ring Samaritans, or if you call from Sydney and you ring Samaritans. It's the same service. And the DFA calls are that part of it, the lines that are funded on the DFA side. We also, a nice part of that has come through, we are also the official mental health partner of the GAA. So through the DFA and the GAA, we've actually presented some mental health and wellbeing webinars to GAA over in Germany and again in the Middle East, and that has been well received by people over there. And again, it's just something that, an addition again that a staff member has done.
Yeah.
And in terms of even the training, the volunteers train themselves in the branches, and that's a different sector. The whole volunteer training and ongoing training in the branches stayed in the branches, and that was done online by them. But in terms of the external training, we would have always been able to train face-to-face with groups. And again, maybe if it was staff at a homeless agency who were suddenly getting really distressing calls, but because of being able to put it online, we were suddenly able to go a bit further with that. So it's training or staff and volunteers in organisations who may be dealing with the unemployed, who may be dealing with homeless, who may be dealing with people in addiction services. And suddenly the homelessness and addiction issues became very much crisis calls during COVID. And that's where we were able to extend our services that way. And it is something we will continue to do because it's been really well received on both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come in there? No.
Sorry, I suppose just your question, how can you help? I suppose the help is that for all you, Senator, for you and all your colleagues in politics, just to make people aware of who we are in your local communities and encourage people to join us as volunteers. And that's a very important message, because the more volunteers we have, the more we can do. Now, we have a reasonable queue at the moment because, as I said earlier, we couldn't train there for over a year. So we have a good kind of bank of people that want to join. But that's something we'll always need volunteers. And I think if that message can be got into every local community, that would be a big thing for us.
Yeah, fantastic.
The word that we're there if people need us.
Yeah.
If people do show up in distress, we are there to support them.
It's one of those things that we're trying to promote very much in our regional areas. At the moment, I'm just trying to see, can we even get people who will be able to help us with home help, because it's a real crisis at the moment, just even getting home help hours for regional areas. So no, very happy to do that. I have offices in a number of areas there in the constituency, so very happy to promote that and to showcase maybe just, the Samaritans helpline number, and then also the options that are there for volunteers. I suppose just I had one query there just on the rural, the webinars, maybe it was that, in other words, that you were saying that you were conducting sort of online sessions. I was just curious about how those were taking place. I don't know if anyone might be able to answer that query.
We could come back with more details on that because they're carried out by a member of staff who in particular, mainly she works very closely with the INOU, and they have, I think, 200 member groups. So a lot of it is through those member groups. But no, we could come back to you with that, definitely. To see
that's perfect. It's just, I'm very interested. I think it's a really good thing, because I think being able to see someone, even though I know it's anonymous and everything, but sometimes being able to see a face and all of that, I think it's really important. And just so many of our areas are so isolated. It can be so difficult, particularly with the lack of public transport sometimes, to get to our urban areas to be able to maybe sit down with somebody if that was needed. But I know it's very much like a telephone service. And like you say, to highlight your number, your 116, 123. So I think that's something that we'll be promoting an awful lot. So Gurmil Mahagat to the Cahirlach, and just thank you for all the work that you've been doing. You've mentioned just the isolation and the loneliness. I hope that we're coming out, that we're moving towards a safer and more engaged space. I know that our day services and our social services are opening up. That's going to be a way to bring older people sort of back in to connect with their friends. I know that we're seeing our clubs and associations getting to start up and get going again. but I think a lot of people are still struggling, and I just think your service is really crucial. So thank you very much.